Sir, put the bag on the ground, slowly.
Officer, this is a medical bag. I'm a doctor on a house call for a patient.
I don't care what you say you are, you match a description. Put the bag down.
A description of what? A black man with a bag in this neighborhood?
Officer, I have a patient in critical distress inside. I need to go.
You're not going anywhere until we sort this out. Last time, bag on the ground, hands on your head.
This body cam footage, recorded at 5:17 p.m. in a quiet suburb, became the epicenter of a firestorm that cost one officer his badge and a city $1.6 million. This isn't just a story about one mistake. It's a story about 20 years of warnings that nobody wanted to hear. The officer's name was Mark Fenton. He was 48 years old and had been with the Northwood Police Department for exactly 20 years. And those 20 years told a story his supervisors chose to ignore. His file contained 17 civilian complaints, a staggering number for a patrol officer. But it wasn't the number that was frightening. It was the pattern. 12 of those 17 complaints involved the stop, detention, or search of minority professionals in predominantly white, affluent neighborhoods. The pattern was so clear, it was a flashing red light. In 2008, a complaint from a black attorney whom Fenton detained for 45 minutes outside his own home, demanding proof his BMW wasn't stolen. In 2012, a complaint from an Asian software engineer who was searched in a grocery store parking lot because he was zero. In 2017, a complaint from a Latino college professor whom Fenton stopped during his morning jog and questioned about a series of burglaries with absolutely no probable cause. Each complaint ended the same way. An internal investigation that found the officer's actions were within policy, followed by mandatory cultural sensitivity retraining that Mark Fenton attended, but never applied. In his mind, the puzzle assembled instantly and incorrectly. He didn't see a person. He saw a stereotype. He didn't see a resident. He saw a threat. The system designed to flag and fix officers like him failed at every turn. It didn't fix. It just filed the paperwork and sent him back onto the streets. Do you think officers with over 10 complaints of racial profiling should be automatically removed from patrol duties? Let me know your thoughts below. Now, let's meet the man who was forced to confront the 20-year result of that systemic negligence. Dr. David Cheneau, 42 years old, the head of emergency medicine at Northwood General Hospital. His journey was not an easy one. He graduated from Meharry Medical College, a historically black institution, before earning a coveted residency spot at one of the most competitive programs in the nation, Johns Hopkins. He was one of only a handful of black residents in his class, and he knew that to succeed, he would have to work twice as hard and be 3 times as good. And he was. Colleagues called him unflappable. In the chaos of the ER where lives hung in the balance, Dr. Cheneau was a rock of calm and absolute competence. Over his 15-year career, he had saved thousands of lives, won national awards for pioneering new patient triage protocols, and mentored dozens of young doctors. He was the embodiment of professionalism, a man who had dedicated his life to serving his community. He had overcome the systemic barriers in medicine to reach the top of his profession. He never imagined that on a quiet Sunday evening, he would face the exact same barriers from a man who had sworn an oath to protect him. The scene of the action was almost absurdly peaceful. The Willow Creek Estates neighborhood, a place where the average home price is $1.5 million, and the lawns are manicured with geometric precision. It was Sunday evening, October 16th. The exact time was 5:12 p.m. The air was cool, smelling of damp autumn leaves and chimney smoke. The sun was setting, casting long shadows across the immaculate pavement. Dr. Cheneau had parked his modest Volvo on the curb. He was on an urgent house call. An 85-year-old patient with severe COPD was in acute respiratory distress. The family had called Dr. Cheneau directly. He had been their primary physician for years. An ambulance was on its way, but the doctor lived closer and could provide immediate care. In his black leather medical bag was a stethoscope, a portable oxygen tank, a nebulizer, and the life-saving medications that could make all the difference. Every second counted. It was at this moment that Officer Mark Fenton's patrol car cruised by. Fenton was at the end of his shift. He was irritable. And a thought, which he later couldn't even hide from investigators, flashed through his mind. What is this guy doing in this neighborhood? He didn't see a doctor rushing to a call. He saw what his biases had trained him to see. A black man next to a car in a place he decided he didn't belong. He flipped on his lights. "Good evening, sir. Stay right where you are." "Good evening, officer. I'm sorry, I can't. I have a medical emergency with a patient in that house right there." Dr. Chanot pointed toward the home. "What's in the bag?" Fenton ignored his explanation, his eyes fixed on the black leather bag. "Medical equipment. I'm a physician. Listen, I really have to go." "I said stay where you are. Put the bag on the hood of the car." Fenton's tone hardened. Dr. Chanot felt the familiar chill, the sickening fatigue of having to justify your existence in spaces others take for granted. He had felt it many times, but never when a patient's life was on the line. "Officer, I understand your caution, but you are delaying emergency medical care. Here is my identification." Dr. Chanot calmly reached for the inside pocket of his coat. "Hands! Keep your hands where I can see them," Fenton shouted, his hand instinctively moving toward his sidearm. "How am I supposed to show you my ID if my hands have to be visible?" A note of desperate frustration entered Dr. Chanot's voice. Quote 12. Quote 13. For Officer Fenton, facts no longer mattered. Only prejudice did. In his world, people who claimed important jobs to get out of trouble were always lying. He saw not a savior, but a suspect. Dr. Chanot, realizing arguing was futile and every second was precious, slowly placed his bag on the hood of his car. He was furious, but years in the ER had taught him how to maintain composure under extreme pressure. Quote 14. He slowly retrieved his wallet, pulling out his physician's license and his hospital ID card, complete with his photo and title. Fenton took them, glanced at them for a fraction of a second, and smirked. "A very convincing fake. Where'd you get it made?" This was the point of escalation. For Dr. Chanot, it wasn't just an insult. It was a denial of his entire life, his education, his oath. At that moment, a woman in her 50s ran out of the house. Quote 4. She stopped short when she saw the police officer. Quote 17. Fenton glanced at her, then back at the doctor. Quote 18. By now, a second patrol car had arrived. A younger officer got out. A neighbor from across the street had come out onto his porch and was now filming the entire scene with his phone. Dr. Chanot looked Fenton directly in the eyes. Quote 19. Should an officer face personal financial liability if their biased actions lead to a patient's harm or death? Comment. Quote 20 or quote 21. And then, the reveal. The moment Officer Fenton's world came crashing down. A black sedan pulled up quietly to the scene. A tall, gray-haired man in plainclothes got out. It was Lieutenant Graham, Fenton's shift commander. He lived just a block away, and had heard his officers call out in a familiar location. He walked up to the scene, and his eyes widened in recognition. He didn't just know Dr. Chanot. 3 years earlier, Dr. Chanot had spent 6 hours in surgery saving Lieutenant Graham's son's life after a horrific car accident. Fenton's face was a mask of smug satisfaction. "Lieutenant, glad you're here. I've got a suspicious individual, claims to be a doctor, carrying fake IDs." Lieutenant Graham didn't even look at him. He walked straight to Dr. Chanot. Quote 23. Quote 24. Dr. Chanot breathed, a wave of relief washing over him. Quote 25. The lieutenant turned slowly to face Fenton. The blood drained from the officer's face. His hands began to shake. He wasn't just looking at his boss. He was looking at the end of his 20-year career. The realization was instant and devastating. Quote 26. The lieutenant's voice was quiet, but it had the sharp edge of steel. "Do you have any idea who this is?" "Lieutenant, I was just following protocol. You have detained the head of emergency medicine for Northwood General, the man who saved my son's life. You have detained him while he is on his way to save another man's life." Graham paused, his gaze like ice. Badge and weapon on the hood of his car. "Now, you're relieved of duty." "But sir, I was..." "Now, The lieutenant's voice boomed across the quiet street. With trembling hands, Mark Fenton unclipped his badge and placed it on the hood. He then unholstered his service weapon and placed it beside the badge. The clink of metal on metal sounded like a death knell. Dr. Cheneau, wasting no more time, grabbed his medical bag and ran into the house. Lieutenant Graham turned to the witness with the phone. Quote, 33. Thankfully, Dr. Cheneau was in time. He stabilized Mr. Greenberg before the ambulance arrived, but the incident on the street was far from over. The neighbor's video hit social media at 8 p.m. By midnight, it had 300,000 views. By morning, 2 million. The hashtag #JarDoctorInChains was trending nationally. The Northwood Chronicle ran a front-page story. CNN and the New York Times picked it up. The NAACP released a statement demanding not just Fenton's termination, but a criminal investigation. The American Medical Association called the incident, quote, 34. 2 weeks later, a prominent civil rights law firm filed a lawsuit on behalf of Dr. David Cheneau. The suit named Officer Mark Fenton personally, his supervisors who had ignored the pattern of complaints for years, and the city of Northwood. The claims: unlawful detention, racial profiling, violation of the Fourth Amendment, and reckless endangerment. The initial amount sought was $3 million. The city's attorneys tried to posture, but the video was irrefutable. Fenton's complaint history was undeniable, and Lieutenant Graham's testimony was damning. After 11 months, rather than face a jury trial they would have spectacularly lost, the city of Northwood settled. Dr. David Cheneau was awarded $1.6 million. As for Mark Fenton, his fate was sealed. 3 days after the incident, he received his official termination letter. It read, in part, "Your demonstrated pattern of behavior, culminating in the events of October 16th, shows a complete failure to perform your duties impartially and constitutes a direct threat to public trust." His name was entered into the National Decertification Index, permanently barring him from working in law enforcement anywhere in the country. A union appeal failed. Today, Mark Fenton works as a shift supervisor for a private security firm, patrolling warehouses on the edge of town. His supervisors, the ones who had signed off on his complaint dismissals for years, received official reprimands and were reassigned to desk duty. But Dr. Cheneau didn't just want money or revenge. He wanted systemic change. As a non-negotiable part of the settlement, he insisted the city implement what became known as the quote 36. The Northwood Police Department was mandated to enact the following reforms. 1. And quote 37 knuckle. Automatic Internal Affairs and Civilian Review Board investigation triggered after the third complaint of bias against a single officer. 2. The creation of an independent civilian oversight board with subpoena power to review all cases of alleged misconduct. 3. Mandatory annual de-escalation and implicit bias training, co-designed by community leaders, featuring real-world scenario simulations. 4. A new, quote, 38 policy, requiring officers to take reasonable steps to verify professional credentials presented to them before escalating to detention. Months after the settlement, Dr. David Cheneau gave one single interview. His final words resonated across the country. Quote 39. The story of Dr. Cheneau and Officer Fenton isn't a story of one bad apple. It's the story of an orchard that allowed a rotten apple to hang on the branch for 20 years. The system that protected an officer with 17 complaints isn't a broken system. It's a system that was working exactly as it was designed, to protect its own, until the cost of inaction became too high. That $1.6 million wasn't the price of justice. It was the bill for its long and unforgivable absence. Which of the Cheneau protocols do you believe should be mandatory federal law for all police departments? Write the number of the reform, or just type "all" in the comments. If you believe these stories need to be told so that the systems can change, hit that subscribe button and ring the bell. Justice isn't just what happens on camera, it's the change that happens after.